Oh, hello, it is time to go over UFC 280. This is going to be start of my analysis videos of the card. This is going to be the biggest card of the year, the card that we and every single UFC fan out there has been most excited for, most anticipating. To start off, we're going to be going with the most anticipated matchup of the card, which is going to be Charles Oliveira versus Islam Makhacehv. This is a fight that's been in the making for quite some time, and this is pretty much every fighter's dream. These are arguably the two best and most talented fighters in the greatest division in the current UFC era, which is going to be the lightweight division. Charles Oliveira is going to be the best jiu-jitsu tactician, and Islam Makhacehv is going to be the peak of Russian Dagestani combat sambo, and they're finally colliding. We're getting a little bit of a kind of Khabib versus Tony Ferguson vibe from this fight, because basically Islam is very similar to Khabib. A lot of people call him mini Khabib. I feel that's a little bit of a disservice. He's definitely a lot different from Khabib in certain aspects, but he's very similar, and he's his protege. Along with Charles Oliveira, who a lot of people feel is the better version of Tony Ferguson, funny enough. That I can agree with. Except Tony's a little bit more box heavy style, while Oliveira is a little bit more Muay Thai and much more into submissions. This fight is an absolutely insanely exciting fight. I just can't wait for it, so let's start breaking down these two fighters. First, we're going to be looking at the person who should be the champion, because honestly, the champion does have a name, and that's Charles Oliveira. Even though this is for the vacant belt, let's be honest here. Charles is the champ. Charles Oliveira, fighting at the lightweight division, he is going to be 32 years of age. He's going to have a record of 33 wins, 8 losses, no draws, 1 no contest. Having 9 KOs, which is really good, but a staggering 21 submissions on his record. 5'10" in height, with an orthodox fighting style. He's going to have a 74-inch reach. Then we're going to be looking at also his takedown advantage, significant strike accuracy, and of course the odds in a little bit. He's actually going to be the underdog in this fight, despite being basically the champion with multiple title victories over Justin Gaethje, Dustin Poirier, Michael Chandler. Like, he's just been through the absolute ringer, and it's quite surprising to honestly see that he is the underdog. That's quite shocking to me, to be honest with you. Granted, I'm going to go in who I feel is going to win the event, but that does not change. He's getting a little disrespected, but from what I've seen though, most UFC fighters are actually favoring Charles to win, which is surprising. Again, I don't know what the bookkeepers are doing. I don't care though, doesn't matter. He has notable wins, like I mentioned, over Michael Chandler, Tony Ferguson, Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje, and I didn't put him on there because I ran out of space, but also Kevin Lee. Don't forget about Kevin Lee. That's a good victory. Then facing him is going to be the sort of new star of the Dagestani camp, the new star of Khabib's camp, which is going to be Islam Makhacehv. 31 years of age, a record of 22 wins, 1 loss, no draws, 4 KOs, 10 submissions, 5'10" in height, so they both are going to be the same height. Islam has a 70.5-inch reach, so Charles Oliveira is going to have the reach advantage in that fight. Then we're going to briefly mention his takedown. 3.4 to 1 takedown average. That's good. Per minute, that's good. That's really good right there. Charles is not lagging behind, but still, that's a really high amount. He's going to be the favorite in this fight, boasting wins over Dan Hooker, Arman Tsarukyan, and Bobby Green, who is getting this title shot over. First and foremost, I'm going to address one thing. Islam deserves this shot. A lot of people are going to be going, oh, he doesn't deserve this shot. Who has he fought? He hasn't fought anyone of name. He hasn't fought anyone in the top 5. Yes. But that is not Islam's fault. That is not going to be Islam's fault, because if you look at a lot of his sort of fights, they get canceled. People pull out against Islam. People have ducked Islam. Let's not forget Michael Chandler ducks Islam. Let's not forget all these people duck Islam. And then adversely, who would then fight for the lightweight title? Are we really going to keep that title vacant for over a year? It's the lightweight title. This is the most coveted title in the UFC's division currently. There's nothing in the UFC that's as touted as this, except for possibly the bantamweights, which is also on this card. Yes, you could have slotted in Alexander Volkanovski, but he was preoccupied with Max Holloway 3, so we're not gonna get into that. Islam is the guy to put here. Absolutely. Now, how does this fight go? It's a hard one. Honestly, it's a pick-up. Anyone who's saying Charles Oliveira destroys Islam round 1, you're blinded by the hype. You love Charles Oliveira too much. You're too big a fan. Anyone who says Islam Makhacehv goes in there and rides him like a horse, you're blinded by the hype. You love him too much. You're too much of a fan. I'm sorry, but I'm looking at this. These are the two most talented fighters in the UFC right now. This, at least in the lightweight division. Let me double back on that. These are going to be the two guys at the height of the division. These two guys are the best in their class. The best wrestler in the lightweight division versus the best submission artist in the lightweight division. And man, when you look at everything else they do, there's so much more that they do, because Charles Oliveira is not just exclusively a grappler. What he's also going to be is he's a massively improved striker. If you look at some of his previous fights and people he's fought, one of the biggest things to note is the fact that he was able to go toe-to-toe with Dustin Poirier. I think Dustin Poirier currently is the best striker in the lightweight division, but Charles Oliveira hung with him. Charles Oliveira hung with Dustin Poirier, and while he did lose on the feet, he used his other skills to go in there and be able to get the W. He took advantage over Dustin's issues when it came towards grappling and wrestling, and he managed to exploit those, which is very good on his end. Also, knocked out Michael Chandler, one of the hardest hitters in the division. He knocked him out, not with power, but precise pinpoint striking. And honestly, Justin Gaethje as well. While he did submit Justin Gaethje, he beat him in the striking realm. That submission was set up by him knocking him down with pinpoint precise shot. And Justin Gaethje even said himself that he had never been hit like that before. He never felt something like that before. And this is the man who fought Michael Chandler and Dustin Poirier. So with all those things to mention, you gotta look at Charles Oliveira's striking. He has a very high significant strike accuracy of 61.78%. That's very good in UFC. That's a very good significant strike percentage. But here's the thing. One issue that I see with Charles Oliveira, one that, though I will mention, I don't think Islam's gonna sort of make note of, but he has some of the worst striking defense. His striking defense is borderline abysmal. He does not move his head. He just lets himself get hit over and over and over again, and that's so bad. If you look at, he absorbs 3.18% significant strikes absorbed per minute. Look at that stat. Look at that stat. That's a poor stat. That's a poor stat. He gets hit so much, but he uses that to sort of set up his grappling. Basically, he anticipates you knocking him down. He's fine with getting knocked down because people are scared to go to the ground with him. That's why Justin Gaethje didn't pounce on him. That's why Dustin Poirier didn't pounce on him. Well, he actually kind of did. And then Michael Chandler, he did actually pounce on him, and he did fight in his guard for a little bit, which I'll get into. But ultimately, Charles Oliveira does not mind his poor striking defense because it sets up his grappling. But here's the thing. That's going to be a problem for him in the future. But not particularly against Islam Makhacehv, because Islam Makhacehv is not a striker. But, you're a fool to believe that Islam isn't going to be able to do damage on the feet. Granted, Oliveria, better striker by far, but Islam's no slouch. That's the major difference from Khabib. He's a better striker than Khabib. Khabib's striking was very sloppy. Islam's a lot tighter, though the one time he did get knocked out, that was due to his striking. That was due to a very, very sloppy entry, which led to him getting knocked out by Martins. Now, one thing I will say about Islam that I do want to highly point out as well. Islam is arguably the best defensive striker, has the best defensive striking in the UFC. Look at that statistic right there I want to highlight. That statistic is a nasty one right there. 0.84 significant strikes absorbed per minute. That's the lowest in the lightweight division. This man is not getting hit. He's not getting hit. So why are we going out here saying Charles Oliveira is going to walk right through and march him down and knock him out? Because he got knocked out in 2015? Because if we're going to look at that and we're going to talk about that, then we got to talk about the many losses on Charles Oliveira's record. His last one being a KO, which he tapped a strike, which was earlier than Islam's knockout. But I'll do something better. Now look at that. Because when these guys lost last, they were different fighters. They were completely different fighters. The fighter that Islam is and the fighter that Charles Oliveira is currently right now are completely different. We can't look at that. We cannot. I'm sorry. It's not valid. It's trash footage you can just throw away. You want to look at these guys and how they're going to fight? Look at these fights that I have on the screen right here. You'll look at, for Islam, you'll look at his fight against Hooker, Saryukin, Bobby Green. Saryukin, that's a very good win. That right there is a very good win to have on your record for Islam, because this guy is the real deal. This guy is a beast. Yes, he just lost to Makhacehv. That's not a bad loss. And keep in mind too, he fought Islam in his UFC debut. If you watch some of this guy, you're gonna know he's the real deal. And a win over him for Islam that's good. That's really good for his part. But I'm not gonna go out here and boast about it. Oliveira has the better record. He's the more decorated, he's the more talented, he's the more experienced when it comes down to this. So, how do I see this fight going? I've rambled on and on and on about it. Who do I feel is going to win this fight? I'm going to be honest with you. I think it's going to be Islam Makhacehv. Now, why do I feel it's going to be Islam Makhacehv? Well, Charles Oliveira's options to win are going to be knocking out Islam. I don't think he's going to be able to submit Islam. If Islam is in a really bad situation, I don't think he's going to tap. And what I feel is going to happen is Charles Oliveira is going to burn his arms out and get tired trying that submission. Perfect example, Paul Felder. He had Paul Felder in all sorts of nasty submissions, but he couldn't get it. He couldn't submit him. Why was that? Because Paul Felder did what I think Islam's going to do. Islam is going to fight intelligently in his guard. That's a secret. We saw a little bit of inklings with this with Michael Chandler, because Michael Chandler fought intelligently within Charles Oliveira's guard. That's why he didn't get finished there. But his guard was too good for Chandler to be able to get the finish. But that's the thing. Islam has the better wrestling. Islam, I feel, will be able to fight intelligently in that guard and be able to get what I feel is more likely a decision, but possibly a late round finish. People are saying, oh, Charles is going to knock him out. Again, I want to highlight this. Yes, he's been knocked out once. in 2015. In 2015, he was knocked out. Look at all these fights since. He's a different fighter. His striking has changed vastly. Some problems I do feel is going to be giving Islam are not going to be problems in regards to the actual fight or his skills actually, but I feel his mindset, because as we stated, Oliveria has some more experience. He's marching right into enemy territory in Abu Dhabi. Islam Makhacehv strikes me as a perfectionist. He strikes me as someone who does not like getting hit, someone who's not like messing up, someone who does not like failure. Meanwhile, Charles Oliveira does not mind failure because he has the heart and determination to push through it. People said he's a quitter, he's a quitter. That guy's gone. That guy, that quitter that we saw back in the day, no, he got murdered by this man right here. He got murdered by this man. Because since then, we've seen him in some really bad situations, but he never quit. You see this against Chandler. You see this against Poirier. You didn't really see it against Gaethje, but he still got hurt. He got dropped by Gaethje multiple times. So how do I feel it's gonna go? Like I stated, Charles Oliveira, I don't think he's gonna submit him. I don't think he's gonna win the decision. I think honestly, Islam is going to push the pressure, fight a little bit safe, keep him up against the fence in the first couple of rounds. But then once it gets to later rounds 3 and 4, I feel he's going to be more aggressive with his wrestling, while Charles Oliveira is gonna be tired. Keep in mind too, granted this is because he's such a finisher, but Charles Oliveira, he does not go to decision. He's only been in his insane win streak since he last fought Felder. He's only been to the 3rd round against Kevin Lee and Tony Ferguson. And only the Ferguson fight was a decision. Oh, and forgive me, Dustin Poirier. I just don't see an avenue in which Charles Oliveira is going to take out Islam. I feel he's going to have the determination to not get knocked out, and how I feel it's going to go is, like I said, I think it's going to go into those later rounds. And if it goes into those later rounds, I'm going to favor Islam. So if you want my betting prediction, what I'm going to put my money on is, I'm honestly going to put my money on Islam by decision if I have to pick a victor. If you want to be ballsy, you can do Islam 4th or 5th round finish. With how this year has been, with these crazy 5th round finishes, these title fights, a la Leon Edwards head kicking Usman, a la Yuri Prohaska submitting Glover Teixeira, I don't know how that happens. You might want to go for that 5th round. You might. There's plausibility there. Ultimately though, it's gonna be a great fight. This is a beautiful main event. This is the main event we've wanted for a long time. But now, I'm gonna talk about this briefly because this is very much a thing. Alexander, the Great Volkanovski, is the backup fighter. Ignore his record. It's 25-1. Oh, I'm gonna only go over this briefly. Alexander Volkanovski is the featherweight champion, and he's the backup fighter for UFC 280. Sorry, Dariush, I don't know what Ali was telling you, but you're not it. You're not it, son. You're fighting Matthews. Worry about Matthews, because that's a hard fight. Alexander Volkanovski is the #1 pound for pound, the featherweight champion. He'd be moving up a weight class. He boasts a beautiful record of 25 wins, 1 loss, no draws, 12 KOs, 3 submissions. Height of 5'6", so he is very short. Were he to fight Oliveira or Islam, he has a massive height disadvantage. We have to go over that. His height is poor for that. But we've seen how he fights against people with a height advantage in the form of Max Holloway, because Max Holloway is of similar height to Oliveira and Islam. So we know he could hang with it. His reach is going to be greater than Islam, so were he to fight Islam, he would have the reach advantage, but not against Oliveira. Takedown average, nothing special. Significant strike accuracy, actually lower than both guys, which is surprising. I believe he's the underdog against both of them. How the booking odds has it, if it's Alexander Volkanovski, he's going to be the underdog, which is fine. It's to be expected. I don't have a problem there. It'd be short notice ish. How do I feel it goes? I'm not gonna lie to you. I think he beats Oliveria. Look at that win he's got right there. Brian Ortega. Brian Ortega is a very good submission artist. Not on Oliveira's level. No. Not of Oliveira's caliber, but on his level. 3 submissions. One of the tightest guillotines I've ever seen. Volkanovski did not tap. Ortega's arms got tired. I don't think Volkanovski or Islam would tap against Charles Oliveira. So I don't think Alexander Volkanovski is gonna get submitted. Same thing with Islam. I don't think Islam's gonna submit him. So then how does it go? It goes to striking, and Volkanovski's gonna beat him in the striking department. He's a far better striker, not far better, but he's a better striker than Oliveira. I'd say he's on Dustin's caliber, probably better than Dustin, to be honest with you. He's going to fight intelligently in his guard, and I feel he's going to get a 4th round or 5th round finish or a decision. That's how I feel the fight would go, toward it to be Alexander Volkanovski against Charles Oliveira. Now then, though, in the case of Islam Makhacehv, I think Islam would beat Alexander Volkanovski. So yes, I'm picking against two Bronx on both fronts. I'm sorry. I just have to. It's just how I see it. Oh, and what they mentioned, Volkanovski is going to greatly expose Oliveira's poor striking defense. But in regards to Islam Makhacehv, he's not going to knock out Islam Makhacehv, I feel. Islam Makhacehv has really, really good striking defense. Keep in mind, I mentioned that. His striking defense is insane. How I feel it's going to go, though, is he's going to keep ragdolling Volkanovski. I don't think he's going to submit him. I don't think he's going to get a finish or TKO, but I think he's going to get a decision victory, and he's going to ragdoll him. Not much validity in talking about this, to be honest with you, because it's very likely that this fight's going to happen now. This is your main event. It's going to be Islam and Charles Oliveria, and it's going to be a good one. Well, this has been Gomi. Bye-bye.